Have you ever felt a quiet promise inside you, made before you remembered your name? Do you sense that certain hardships weren't accidents but lessons you chose? If you could remember one thing you agreed to before birth, what would you want it to be? Beloved friends, gather close in your mind. Let us speak plainly, as two people might sit by a small fire and tell the truth to one another. You have come here with heavy days behind you, with nights that sometimes steal your sleep, and with mornings that ask you to begin again. Let us say at once that your soul is older than your pain. It has chosen this life with intention. Before you took your first breath, you were not lost, and you did not stumble into this world by accident. There was a quiet planning, a soft agreement, 7 small vows perhaps, or 7 guiding promises that your deeper self made. I will tell them as stories of the heart, so you may meet them and remember. Before we begin, I offer you to join our community where we share Yogananda's wisdom and insight for spiritual growth. Let's dive deep together. The first promise you made was to remember, not with words or ideas, but with the slow knowing of the heart. You promised to wake at some point to the light within. This is not the loud, sudden kind of waking that breaks your neck and throws you into a new life. It is the steady coming to your senses that happens when you stop doing and start listening. You knew, when you chose this life, that through the noise of the world there would be a still point where the truth sits quietly. You promised to find that still point and to bring the rest of yourself there, even if only for a breath at first. Many of you have kept this promise in secret ways. You have looked up at a moon and felt a hush. You have touched the hand of another and known a soft bond that is more than liking. These small awakenings are the practice of that first promise. The second promise was to learn the language of your own heart. Long before you were born, you felt that you would forget how to listen to yourself. So you promised to come back here and remember how to feel without judgment. In life, you will be taught how to be a certain way by family, by society, by voices that tell you what you should want. Yet you also promised to peel those voices away gently and hear the simple wants beneath them. To be honest with your joy, to name your fear, to feel grief without pretending it is less than it is. This learning is not quick. It asks patience. It asks that when the world tells you to punish yourself for a mistake, you instead sit and say, I am here. I feel this. I will give this feeling room. In that room, the heart learns to speak plainly. And from that plain speaking, the soul finds its true language. The third promise was to love without being owned by love. Before you came, you knew you would meet people who were mirrors and teachers. You promised to give and receive love freely, but not to clutch it in your fist and call it safety. You knew that attachments would press like weights and pretend to be security. So you decided to practice love that is a river, not a lock. You would allow the river to flow through you, to give and to take, to change the shape of your life while not destroying your center. In this promise, there is a steady courage. To love and let go, to hold and to release. The practice of such love will teach you your strength and your tenderness both. The fourth promise was to suffer, but to let suffering be a teacher rather than a jailer. This sounds strange when spoken plainly, but your soul understood that pain polishes what is rough. You did not go seeking suffering. You simply agreed that when hardship came, it would be used. You would not turn it into bitterness. You would look at it like a master craftsman looks at a stone and says, I will carve what is needed. In life, you will encounter losses, betrayals, failures. The promise you made was to meet them with a question. What does this want to show me? When you ask that question without hurry, without anger, suffering will reveal its lessons. It will teach you humility. It will show you the smallness of many fears, and it will deepen your compassion for others who also walk bruised roads. The fifth promise was to be a light in some small corner of the world. Before birth, you felt the shape of your gifts, not fully obvious but present like seeds. You promised to plant those seeds, to tend them even if they grew in private. Perhaps your gift is kindness that arrives at the right hour. Perhaps it is a steady work done with care. Perhaps it is a voice that comforts. No matter how small, you promise to use what you had so that the world would be eased. This promise is not about fame, nor about success as the world names it. It is quiet, practical, and faithful. It asks you to act when others sleep, to give without announcing, to show up for tasks that no one will praise. In keeping this promise, you will feel your life enter into a larger weave. The sixth promise was to forgive. Before the first breath, you held this as a vow because you knew how bitter a life can become if every wound is kept as a badge. Forgiveness here is not forgetting or excusing harm. It is a decision to stop letting the past run the show. You chose to practice forgiving those who hurt you and, importantly, forgiving yourself. People make mistakes, you made many. To carry them is to bind yourself to an iron chain. The promise was to set down that chain, slowly, sometimes painfully, and to learn how to meet yourself with gentleness. When you do, the past softens. The future becomes possible. Your heart learns its own rhythm again. The seventh promise was to return home, not necessarily in the sense of leaving the body this moment, but to come back to the inner place where there is no need to prove, to struggle, to defend. You promised that whatever outward roles you would play, mother, father, merchant, artist, student, you would not lose the memory of the other shore. You would not let the world so absorb you that the inner light is forgotten. This promise is kept in small ways. In moments of prayer, in a breath taken on purpose, in a pause before anger, in a song shared with another. Each of these is a small crossing back to your inner home. Now, dear ones, do not mistake these promises as rules written on a stone. They are living commitments, flexible as your breath. You may keep them brightly one season and feel them dim in another. That is human. The work is simply to notice. The first step is to stop blaming life for the things that wake you at night. Say instead, "This was part of the lesson I agreed to learn." Such an admission is not an excuse. It is a way to handle what comes with dignity. When you meet life's tests with the clarity of an agreed lesson, you no longer suffer as a victim. You become a student. How then shall you live so these promises are honored? Begin with your waking hour. A short act of turning inward changes the whole fabric of the day. Sit quietly and breathe as if you mean it. No clever technique at first, only the decision to return home for a few moments. Let your mind follow the breath as a child follows a teacher. In that simple practice, you remember the first promise. Make this a small ceremony. A candle, a clean place, a few silent words. Over time, those minutes accumulate into a steady inner life that no accident can shake. Learn to speak to yourself with honesty. When feelings come, shame, desire, anger, do not hide them in clever words. Say aloud or to yourself what you feel. When you name your fear, it loses the mysterious power that makes it grow. You made the second promise to learn your own language. This is how you begin. Keep your inner life tender and true. You will find that the heart understands simple naming and that through naming a change begins. Practice love as a skill, not as a drama. When an argument comes, sit with your breath. Remember the river rather than the lock. You do not permit another's actions to drown you. You let them teach you the edge of your tenderness. In this way, you keep the third promise. Love becomes a practice of presence. To look fully, to listen well, to do what is small and kind, then to step back without clinging. This will be the most difficult promise at times, but also the most rewarding. Your relationships will teach you more about yourself than any book can. When suffering knocks, ask the question that opens the door. What is this trying to teach me? This is not a dodge or a bright saying. It is a discipline. Give your pain some language and watch how it changes. In the stillness after a hard moment, offer it to the one you believe in, to the breath or to the silence. Let the pain be held. Forgiveness will come easier from that held place, and the fourth promise will be honored by your willingness to turn hurt into understanding. Tend your gifts as you would a garden. Small actions repeated faithfully are prayers in motion. If your gift is patient listening, practice it even when it is inconvenient. If it is honest work, keep your hands steady and your heart clean. The fifth promise asks for fidelity more than for genius. The world needs faithful hands and true hearts more than brilliant light shows. In this fidelity you touch the divine. Forgive yourself first. It is common to forgive others and forget to forgive the very one who most needs it. You. Notice the inner critic and make a habit of answering it with compassion. When you fail, say, I did what I could with what I had. Then ask, what would I do differently next time? This humble question keeps you moving. When you forgive, you grow roomier inside. You do not have to carry every mistake to your grave. The sixth promise softens your steps. Finally, practice coming home daily. A brief prayer, a small song, a moment of gratitude at the table. These are crossings back to the shore. The seventh promise is kept in these tiny rituals. They are not showy. They are not for others to see. They are a private, steady remembering. Make them like footsteps that always return to the center. Now let me speak plainly about fear. Fear will come because the world presses on the body and the body worries about its safety. But your promises are stronger than fear when you attend to them. Each time you honor one of these inner vows, fear loses its grip. It is like a rope that frays when you hold the light instead. You do not need to banish fear with force. You simply need to shine a small, steady light on what you promised and then take one soft step toward that light. Do not confuse humility with self-erasure. Humility here means honesty about your limits and an acceptance of your need to learn. It is the quiet courage to admit, I do not know, and then to seek. That courage was part of your plan. When you accept your limits, you will not be driven to prove yourself. You will instead be drawn to service. Both humility and service are the salt of spirit. They keep the food of your life from spoiling. Remember also that solitude is a teacher. Many of you are afraid to be alone because being alone shows you who you truly are. But solitude hones the promises. In the silence you will hear whether you indeed chose to remember, to learn your heart's language, to love freely, to allow suffering to be a teacher, to be faithful with your gifts, to forgive and to return home. Do not fear this testing. Embrace it as the necessary polishing that brings out the shine. Sometimes you will fail these promises. You will get lost in the doing of life. When this happens, do not throw yourself into despair as if you have ruined everything. Take one small step back. A single moment of awareness is the doorway. Say, I forgot, but I can remember. This simple phrase is like a key. It opens the door to practice again. Your soul did not expect perfection. It only asked for remembrance. Let us end with a short practice you can keep in your pocket. Close your eyes when you have a spare minute. Take 3 slow breaths. On the first breath, remember the promise to wake. On the second, remember the promise to love. On the third, remember the promise to return home. Let these 3 breaths be a contract renewed. Do this when you are about to act, before you speak, or when the world presses with urgency. These breaths will bring you back to center. Beloveds, your life is not an accident. The small, daily choices of attention, speech, and action are the fulfillment of vows you made in the quiet before birth. Carry them with lightness. They are not chains but invitations. Keep the heart soft, the will steady, and the eyes open to the love that hides in plain sight. Live with the trust of one who has chosen this path. In that trust you will find that the 7 promises are not burdens but companions, each one a kindly friend leading you home. May you walk gently. May you forgive yourself with the same easy hand you offer to others. May you keep the little rituals that bring you back. And when in doubt, breathe. Remember your promise to remember.